You Bet, the Game Changer podcast. Legal Lens, regulatory and legal updates.
Obviously, you could quite easily see if a person enters an unlicensed or illegal casino that is land-based, much easier than in the remote area of online gambling, obviously.
If I say I want to take a wilder ride and I pick one that is not legal, am I a criminal then? Will I be handcuffed?
The Ministry of Justice in Germany have promoted the idea of wanting to erase these criminal offenses from the German criminal code, meaning sections 284 and 285.
Hi, Michelle.
Hi, Andreas.
Welcome back. So it's the second episode we do, and lovely to have you back. For those of you who of our audience who have not heard you so far, maybe 2-3 words about your background. I know it, but I think when it comes from you, much better for everyone.
Yeah, well, thank you, Andreas, for having me again. I'm a lawyer based in Germany, mainly in Heidelberg, and we advise gambling operators in regard to administrative aspects of their business, meaning licensing proceedings and so on, also compliance topics. But we also do litigation when it comes to any kind of civil claim occurrences.
Mm-hmm. Great. So today we would like to discuss a topic that affects potentially everyone who plays online. Mm-hmm. And I would like to outline the situation. So imagine I have time, I'm sitting in front of my computer and decide to spend my time playing online games.
Okay.
And in Germany, I know that we have licensed operators with a German license, and there are other operators, to say it mildly, that I can also access in Germany because we are in the digital age, that do not have a German license. Mm-hmm. They have a different offering. And of course, I could play with them, but at least their offering I know for sure is illegal. If I come to the conclusion that the legal operators are a bit boring, there are limits, I can only put €1 per spin if I play with a slot, I have monthly limits that I can deposit for playing. If I say I want to take a wilder ride and I pick one that is not legal, am I a criminal then? Will I be handcuffed? So how is the situation for me? What happens to me? So first of all, do I have a legal problem when I do that as a player?
Well, in theory, at least you would have a legal problem, yes. The participation in gambling offers that are not licensed by a German, meaning a national authority, constitute a criminal offense under German criminal code. This is stipulated in section 285 of the German criminal code. And yes, I mean, if it were a repetitive behavior and the public prosecutors would know of that, then maybe, yes, at some point you would be handcuffed and brought to jail. That is a possibility, yes, but I would say only in very rare occasions and only if the imprisonment would constitute a proportionate kind of manner, yes.
Okay, so I hope that does not happen, and I must say I haven't tried it, so I talk about a theoretical question. But when I think it through, how would someone find out that I played with an illegal operator? So I would not expect the operator to call the police and say, Andreas has played with me and that was illegal. So what is the usual way that the authorities get notice at all?
Well, I mean, the criminal provisions don't only regard the online business, but also land-based business. And obviously you could quite easily see if a person enters an unlicensed or illegal casino that is land-based much easier than in the remote area of online gambling, obviously. But that is a very interesting question, and has probably led, or the answer to that has probably led to one of the reasons why the number of investigations by the public prosecutors against players are quite low, actually, especially compared to the number of player claims we see on the other hand, where it's which are based on the same facts and figures, more or less. So yes, the online area is more difficult to investigate in, but we do think that there are a few reasons and initiatives that could initiate such a public prosecutor's investigation, one of which stems from the financial institutions and also transactions, because financial institutions would be including payment service providers, for example, and they are or have to be in compliance with anti-money laundering laws that are applicable on a European but also on a national level. And as soon as a payment service provider or a credit institution gets notice of illegal transactions in a monetary manner, that always occurs when it comes to online gambling, whether it's illegal or legal, because you always have to transfer money to your player account and you get paid, or you can withdraw your winnings and so on and so on. So they are under the obligation to notify public authorities of behavior that could be seen as illegal money transfers, because it could always trigger money laundering worries. So this is one of the potential reasons of how public prosecutors' offices get notice of the players actually participating in online gambling. Obviously, it's much easier to simply research illegal offers yourself, but then you would obviously only find the operators' websites, whether they are illegal or not. But it's a lot more difficult to find out about the players.
So that's an interesting one. So let's play that through. So if I or someone plays with an illegal operator and I win X amount of money, eventually it will come to my bank account of my Volksbank, Sparkasse, whatever I have. How would a bank detect that it's a suspicious payment? Because is it already suspicious when you get money from Malta or from a Caribbean island? And would the bank then immediately send a message to a state attorney? How does that work?
Yeah, that's a very interesting question. Also, because you just mentioned Malta. So there is a list of countries that regards all of the countries in the world where the national anti-money laundering authorities have kind of blacklisted or marked certain countries that trigger a certain money laundering risk. This is all based on a risk assessment. And previously, I think, but don't quote me on it, up until last year even, or was it 2022, Malta was still up in that list of high-risk countries against the backdrop of money laundering. So yes, even only a payment initiated from a bank account on Malta could trigger these compliance requirements to the Sparkasse in your theoretical example. Yes, Malta is no longer on this list. So now at the moment, no, the payment of a Maltese, I don't know, person, institution, I don't know, firm would not, only because it is initiated from Malta, trigger money laundering requirements. No, not anymore. But previously this was the case. So that only this little detail that is noted in the transaction history, saying Malta, for example, or I don't know, Isle of Man, could trigger the notification of the financial institutions, because you do have to say a financial institution, once they have notified a regulator or a public authority or the public prosecutor's office of their of the information that a transaction from a high-risk country has been initiated, they can exculpate themselves. So they can just say, well, we've notified an authority, it's no longer our business now. So this could also be part of the motivation.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So I know for example, I think South Africa is one of these countries where you still have the red lights on when you have money transactions. But it must be tons, millions of transactions that are reported, because not every transaction is gambling related. So for, let's say you pay a consultant's fee, you pay a freelancer, or you get a reimbursement for your credit card payment in a restaurant in a country you have visited.
Yeah.
It must be an overwhelming amount of data that arrive at authorities that, if I have to make a guess, have enough work already.
Yeah, and what adds to this is that the German gambling regulator, the Joint Gambling Authority, GGL, usually does not have insight into these financial information. They are eligible and even obliged to enforce against the black market by means of payment blocking. So that, however, can only be efficient if they know and can distinguish between payments that were initiated to or from a licensed operator or a non-licensed operator, at least not on the basis of a German license. They do have a whitelist that you can look at on their website, but this website, or this whitelist, I mean, only highlights the name, for example, of a whitelisted company and the address of their domicile and so on, and maybe even the domain on which they operate legally in Germany. But it does not say anything about the payment information of said licensed operator, which is why the GGL, and I find quite rightly so, have asked the whitelisted market to cooperate and to disclose information in regard to their finances, meaning the data in regard to their bank accounts, so that GGL can forward those to German or generally credit institutions and say, look, this is the white list of bank accounts attached to whitelisted operators. Those transactions can be found and declared as quote unquote safe and legal and sound. However, other transactions that have occurred in connection to gambling, they would have to be investigated further. In addition to that, German and I believe even European laws in regard to money laundering and anti-money laundering oblige operators to highlight the purpose of the transaction in the transaction history, meaning I think it has to say either payout of winnings or unused stakes or wages, something like that, so that it is very clear, not only for the player looking at their bank account at the end of the month, for example, but also very clear for other stakeholders looking at this transaction.
Okay, so to summarize that, it means if a player uses an illegal casino, this is a criminal offense.
Yes.
There is a risk to be detected just by things like the transactions. So I think that's important for everyone to know, because with a little bit of criminal energy, you could say, yeah, I play, the amounts are small, nobody will come after me, how should they know? This is a way how they would know. And what would be the fine? So what could happen if you play? So I would say if you do it once or twice, that will make a big difference to playing every week and spending a lot of money. But what could happen to the criminal player?
So in Germany, and this is a general rule, not only applying to gambling or participation in illegal gambling, you can, if you are found guilty of a criminal offense, be fined with either an imprisonment as the highest fine, more or less, or a monetary fine. And the monetary fine always is attached to your financial situation, meaning your salary. So Section 285 of Germany's criminal code stipulates that a person who has been found guilty of participating in illegal gambling, whether that's land-based or online gambling, can be fined a monetary fine of up to 180, what is it called in English? 180 installments. And each installment would then be found by the court, actually, the criminal court, would be found in relation to your monthly salary. Because obviously what the regulator, what the government do not want is that people who have been, for example, participating in illegal gambling be fined a monetary fine that is so high and too burdensome for them, or burdening for them, to actually pay and then become guilty again by not paying their criminal fine ruled by the court. So someone who would earn about 2,000 euros per month would be fined a lower installment following this criminal offense than someone who earns, for example, 6,000 euros per month.
Okay. So I read a lot about these court cases where people claim money back. Maybe that's also very appealing for newspapers. People celebrate success. I played with an illegal casino. I got my money back. But I must say, I've never read about anyone who was prosecuted and had to pay a fine because he participated in an illegal casino. Do you know of cases where people actually got a fine?
No, I don't.
Okay.
And this is quite remarkable, to be honest, because just recently, I think it was Schleswig-Holstein who published, following a question of one of the coalition parties in Germany, published numbers in regard to the amount of criminal investigations relating to illegal gambling, meaning land-based and online. And they said that from 2022, the number increased from between 20 to 30 cases to 150 approximately. And this is only regarding one federal state. And as a reminder for all the non-German folks listening to us, Germany consists of 16 federal states. So calculating on the basis of this, you could estimate a number of investigations in 2023 of about 2,000. This is not based on a statistic, just my personal calculation for the sake of highlighting the scenario at the moment. So let's assume we have about 2,000 criminal investigations in 2023 in regard to illegal gambling against players. We have a number of player claims in the same time period regarding the whole territory of Germany that is a lot more than these 2,000 criminal investigations that I just calculated. So the discrepancy between these numbers is remarkable, and the search for a reason behind that has not yet been concluded. We do have an idea, obviously, why this is the case. One of those would be, for example, that the legal situation in regard to the licensing proceeding back in the day, meaning between 2012 and 2020, is highly controversial, especially against the backdrop of European law, not only in regard to sports betting on the internet, but also in regard to casinos, so virtual slot machine games and online casino games, meaning bank holder games and poker on the internet. So that could be a reason why public prosecutors' offices have held back from investigating a criminal offense whose grounds are not clarified yet to a level that is stable enough to base a criminal investigation and also a criminal court case on it. However, the player claims, obviously, they do regard the same time period. They usually regard the time period between 2012 and 2020, which is the time where, in Germany at least, operators, again, irrespective of whether it was sports betting, casino, or online and so on, were not able to be issued a national license. And still, most civil courts, or a high number of civil courts, grant these players, in individual cases at least, their losses back, yes. And then they have a judgment that could, in theory at least, be enforced, yes.
Interesting numbers. And maybe at the end of our conversation, just to be clear, participating as a player in an illegal gambling is a criminal offense. A criminal offense, in my understanding, is different to an irregularity. My understanding is if I go speeding and I'm 10 kilometers an hour too fast, I get a ticket, but it's not really a criminal offense. If I break into a house, that is a criminal offense. So the lawmaker decided to put participation in illegal gambling into this really criminal corner. It's not just, you played, you have to pay 50 euros, it's done. It's really on the criminal side. You can get an entry in your register.
Exactly.
And so it can destroy careers. So it can really be drama if it's executed and you go through it. So far, we have not seen it, I understand.
It is actually, yes. And all of the consequences you just highlighted are a real risk for people who are participating in illegal gambling offers. Just recently, I think in the last few months, the Ministry of Justice in Germany have promoted the idea of wanting to erase these criminal offenses from the German criminal code, meaning sections 284 and 285. So all of those risks you just highlighted would be simply erased after this legislative period of the coalition parties.
Yes, I think that is a super interesting topic for another episode. I've also read this white paper from the Ministry of Justice, which would take away this criminal risk, not only from the players, but would also change the situation for the operators. And I think that is a super interesting topic because, in my opinion, the GGL and other authorities could become a toothless tiger. It depends on what you do. There are reasons for it. So let's reserve that for our next episode. I think we have covered the am I a criminal when I play illegally? We have covered it. We have answered it with a pretty clear yes, which I guess is a surprise for a big portion of our audience. And with that, let's conclude this episode. Once again, Michelle, it's always a pleasure having you here. And I must say, I know lawyers that talk in a way that is difficult to follow, and you beef it up with so many paragraphs. I think you have the gift to explain it to people who have not studied law also, and keep it professional at the same time. It was a pleasure having you.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you for having me again. And also, it's always a pleasure talking with you about these topics.
Oh, we take that as a yes for the next participation in the podcast. Thank you so much, Michelle.
Definitely do so. Bye-bye.
Bye.